Boo, did I get you? If I did, then be sure to hit the subscribe button because it's the key to happiness. Yeah, that's right. If you want to be happy, then be sure to subscribe. And if I didn't get you, then don't worry. Just rewatch the video when you're done so that you can subscribe. Anyways, like when you try to go to a new place and you try to meet new people, you always find something shocking. Is that surprise that when you find that someone else's culture, something that you become so accustomed to, is done differently in a new setting or a new area that you've gone. But it's one thing to go to a different country and experience culture shock, but it's another thing to experience it in your own homeland. So, for context, I am Indonesian and I live in Indonesia. Ever since I was born in Indonesia, grew up in Indonesia, and yet,
I can speak Indonesian.
because of the decision that my parents had to have me learn English first, because Indonesian is sort of a language that's very similar to English, but if you speak Indonesian and then you try to learn English, a lot of the nuance and subtle details of English become much harder because English is an incredibly inconsistent language. And also, I went to an international school, and from there, I grew accustomed to watching Western TV shows and even Eastern ones, anime. So because of that, I didn't really grow up with Indonesian stuff. Like I did watch stuff like Upin and Ipin and all that, but that's like a Malay TV show that Indonesia just it just so happens everyone watches it. But I entered university in Indonesia, and there I was kind of forced to just learn the language, like really learn, like not where is the toilet, toiletnya di mana, or ini harganya berapa ya, or how much does this cost. I had to turn my Cinta Lora accent from the start, which sounded like Hai semuanya, saya dulunya bicaranya seperti begini. And if you don't speak Indonesian, that's sort of like a terrible this is a terrible accent. A lot of the problems that I had trying to learn Indonesian is because I felt like I felt incredibly discouraged, because when you try to speak Indonesian with an accent, people usually make fun of you and stuff, and that can be really discouraging for new learners. And like if you do that, please don't. Like you can like try to help them out. Like come on, come on, fam. Someone's trying to learn your language. Like don't fault them if they're not that. When I entered university, I think that the first major culture shock that I had was this thing where I tried to speak bahasa baku, which is formal Indonesian, and every time I met someone, I would not speak. Like there's like a very Indonesia has a lot of tiers of language, which will be explored later on, but it's like there are words that you would write or that you would say in certain contexts that you wouldn't. And I get that that's every language, but I used to always say salam kenal, which is greetings, I guess, which is kind of weird to just say greetings. My name is Jody. Like there's nothing really wrong with it. It's fine, but I kept doing it for months. For months after orientation, and every time I met someone I would be like, hi, salam kenal, which is it's like, hey, greetings, how you doing. I don't never It's so weird. Yeah, the second one that I really had was in English we have this neutral I, right? But in Indonesian it's broken up into a hierarchy, which is very common in Asian countries to have certain levels of formality for words like I or myself. And in Indonesian, the most formal is saya. Then it's aku, and then informal slang word for it is gua. And I used saya all the time to family, to friends, to everyone. I didn't use aku or gua at all. Or sometimes for family, I would use my own name, which is like referring to myself in the third person. But that's not really something that you would do with friends. So every time I met someone, I would always say saya, saya, saya. And it was kind of weird. It turned people off at first, because they were like, "What is this guy doing? Why is he so formal?" Because using saya is sort of like putting a shield between you and the person. Like, yes, we are meeting and conducting business. How you doing? it's I so yeah, it took a while. Now I use aku a lot more often, because gua is sort of rough. I use gua with some close friends. I prefer not to opt for it too often with people who I don't know that well, because I don't know. I feel more comfortable saying aku a lot more. So yeah. Another thing that I wasn't used to was honorifics, which is like an example in English would be like if you're referring to someone who's older as like sir or mister or miss or mrs, that kind of stuff. And in Indonesia, one thing that I didn't take into account, was that you had to use that for people who are older than you by 1 year, meaning like they're like a grade above you. And in my high school, we didn't do that. We just called each other by our names. And even though I do prefer that, it's you gotta respect the culture. You don't want to come off as someone who's disrespectful, like, oh, I'm not gonna respect the way things are done around here, because it's just an honorific, really. Yeah, so in Indonesia, you would refer to someone who's older as ka. Some There are variations, depending on where you are. There's like abang, mas, koenchi. There's all kinds of honorifics that people use. Um, but ka is usually the most neutral, and it's the most widely used. And then next was the dating scene. So I think that in Indonesia, I noticed that there's this term used, which is PDKT, which was short for PDKT, which is like pendekat, pendekatan, which is like to get close to. Try to get to know people first, and like relationships can be taken quite seriously here, because people want to get married. Asian country, there's a lot less casual dating in Indonesian university, and I feel quite shocked about it, to be honest, because growing up, I've always just I just went with the flow. That's so weird. Never mind. The last thing that I was shocked by was the bad words. So yeah, to be honest, I knew a lot of these words already, because let's be honest, when you learn a language, one of the first things you learn are the bad words. But in Indonesian, I noticed that a lot of the bad words, like when learning about how a language develops their bad words, it's very common that they're tied to things that are taboo in a country. So that's why in English, a lot of the older swear words, like the S word or the F word, are losing their power, you could say, because they're less taboo as the ages progress. But words like the N word are a lot stronger now, because of how conscientious people have become about racial issues and racial tension. And in Indonesia, a lot of these swear words are derived from animals. And I think that swear words that are tied to animals are quite interesting, because, like, yeah, sometimes you would call someone a cow or a pig in English, but like there's like monkeys and dogs, and it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of interesting to me that animals are used as swear words, and I never really thought about it. And not to mention that Indonesia has like so many variations. Like just the dog translated in Indo can be, it has so many like different iterations with with different endings to the word, and that's kind of interesting to me because you don't really see that much in other languages. So yeah, those are my 5 culture thingamabobs, culture shocks. Yeah. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. This is the end of the video. If you want to look at some stuff that I have, it's down below. So yeah, you can check out a video here, and I'll see you later.